All right, so short week, back to work. Ready to kind of get active versus a new opponent, tough opponent. Excited for the opportunity. Welcome the challenge, and our guys are back hard at work. So we often talk about competitive greatness in meetings, team meetings, offensive meetings, and competitive greatness is being at your best when your best is required. So I wanted to say how much I appreciate the response by the players, how much they battled. Talked about during the week before the game, no matter what happens, nobody flinched. Nobody flinched. They stayed aggressive, stayed in attack mode. I think it was 17 points in the fourth quarter, uh, 11 points under 2 minutes with no timeouts, which I'm not sure if you guys realize that or not. That's not normal. Doesn't happen all the time. I get we didn't win though. That's the whole point, is to be able to have a shot to win games, put ourselves in the spot to go execute at a high level, and I'm more committed to presenting more opportunities for our guys, continue to find matchups, continue to be aggressive, and give them the shot to go win on game day. So, questions?
What do you like about talking about you giving your guys more opportunities? More of those opportunities for DJ have come behind the line of scrimmage. What do you like about him in that situation as that quick outlet for Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get him involved in the game. I think regardless of what people kind of play coverage-wise, try to play against him to take away possible throws. If you hand it to him, give him a bubble behind the line of scrimmage, you got to tackle him in space. And that guy's pretty dynamic when you get the ball in his hands. So with his screens, quick game throws, obviously vertical down the field throws, any way we can get our guys in space, I'm all about.
Caleb Williams commended your aura after the game. Is that something like you've always been that way, or have you kind of learned to develop that aura as you've gone along your career?
I don't even know how to answer the oral question. I know it's a compliment, so Caleb, I appreciate it. I know my kids use it. My two older boys use it a lot. But I mean, I just believe in being authentic, being myself. Definitely, I think everything about personalities, myself, anybody else, is developed over time. I think being in specific roles, being in front of groups, you learn to find your voice. Learn to figure out what works for you. But also, it's ultimately about the audience, right? How do you bring the best out of the people you're communicating with and talking to? And I've mentioned this before, like being a husband of 16 years has forced communication. So between me and my wife Jessica, so I've grown with that because I was a huge introvert before growing up, so I didn't talk. Never really shy, I would just keep to myself. And then having three boys who are all different personalities made me a better coach. Because when I first got into coaching, I was probably 24 years old, and I was kind of a one size fits all. You're gonna get it how I give it to you, and if you don't like it, that's your problem. Which is the wrong approach. And so I realized having three boys, and my oldest son, Orlando, is probably the most like my personality, the good and the bad. My middle son is most like my wife's personality, and then my youngest son, Judah, is all over the place. So it's about understanding, again, still being my authentic self, but also when I deliver a message, I'm never going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you the truth, but how I deliver it is based on what brings the best out of you.
Thomas, on that subject, you have to parent each of your kids differently. You have to talk to each of them differently to get what you want.
Yeah.
What's been the process for you learning how to talk to Caleb, how to coach him in a way that is going to work for him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a continuing work in progress. I think the first thing I did when I got the job I guess 2 Tuesdays ago, is I called him and we sat down and had a one-on-one conversation so I could tell him what to expect from me and also what I expected from him. And we had a mutual understanding from the get-go. Obviously, my approach, my demeanor is different than some people, but it's always meant to bring out the best in him. And so we had to operate both with a little bit of blind trust. Like I trust him, he trusts me, and then we figure out from there. But again, I think it's about being authentic, understanding what to say to him at the right time to either push his buttons or rein him back in sometimes, but also text him after the game because he's a highly competitive player. Football is a very emotional game, and I like it that way, but also got to understand how to give yourself some grace, how to have some balance. And I think being hard on yourself is important to continue to have growth, but at the same time, we live in a world, man, he plays a spot where everybody's going to be hard on him. So you have to continue to punch yourself in the face. You have to give yourself some grace and move on to get better.
Does he respond better than to you just being more direct, or is there also some, I guess, cushion in what you're saying, some encouragement? How do you play it with him as far as how you communicate?
I'm a pretty direct person, so I think that can come off different ways to different people. But he's not soft, which I appreciate. Me and soft people sometimes don't always see eye to eye get along. But I think he likes being challenged, likes being coached. Definitely all about encouraging, uplifting our guys when it comes to doing things the right way. But I think it's about finding a balance. About we've made some great improvements, some great strides, but being good is not to be confused with being good enough. So I can be better, he can be better, the entire group can be better. So I think it's about finding that balance, and also what each individual player needs.
One of the things you emphasized last week was trying to get the group to be sort of aggressive and play without fear.
Mhm.
When you look at it through Caleb's lens last week and some of the throws he made into tight windows, how do you evaluate the way he played in that game?
Yeah, it was very obvious. He had no fear at all, which is, I think, the way we want to have him be able to play. I think about being aggressive and taking calculated risk. So aggressive is not being reckless. It's two different things. So not putting the ball in jeopardy. He's doing a really good job taking care of the football. Obviously making some tight window throws, which is why you get drafted number one overall to make those big plays. And I think again, when it comes to end of the game, end of the half, he's delivered in a big way, which I think sometimes goes unnoticed because of the result, which I get. But that's a rookie quarterback who, in my opinion, hasn't even scratched the surface of how good he can be. And it's my job, my focus to continue to try to find ways to make him the best he can be, hold him accountable, but also the entire group. So it's not just about him. It's not a one-man show. Myself as a coach or him as a quarterback, but it's about us all kind of working collectively together to get the best result on game day.
After the big fourth quarter, you had the sack and the delay game, kind of short-circuited the offense in overtime. How do you teach a team or players to finish? What's that? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lengthy question. 'Cause I think it's kind of obviously different when it comes to every scenario, but I think it starts with me being able to put us in good spots to have good balance, to still be aggressive without, again, minimizing the risk, but also continue to do a really good job of keeping our foot on the grass. And I think being able the gas, excuse me, but also being able to not force plays, take it one play at a time, and continue to be aggressive and have that balance.
Roma Dunze seems to have gotten more and more comfortable as the year has gone on.
You said Rome?
Rome,
Yeah.
yeah. What are you seeing in terms of him coming along his rookie season?
Rome's an absolute baller. It's been that way from day one. So I love his overall approach. I think he's an extremely mature player, especially for his age. He's kind of been a kind of a no-nonsense guy when it comes to what we ask him to do, whether it's be involved in the run game and blocking, be involved in pass protection, obviously being able to kind of be accountable when it comes to the game on the line. It's 2 games in a row with fourth down calls, and he's made plays. And again, it's been aggressive plays and never flinching with that mentality, but he does it every day in practice. Now, to me, it's a direct correlation between what you do throughout the week and what happens on game day. So the more I develop good habits, you get a good result. I develop bad habits, you have a bad result. I don't care what it is. We're talking about working in whatever field. I'm not gonna name a field, but I know people got sensitive last time when I mentioned finance, so I'm gonna stay away from fields if it wasn't personal. But whatever you do in life, I think about being consistent, developing good habits so you can have a good product.
Now, so when you eye up this Detroit defense, Kirby Joseph specifically, what do you see in him in terms of his ability to impact the game?
Yeah, I mean, these guys are tough. They're violent. He, in some ways, is like a field general, plays different spots. Um, they are in-your-face bunch of group. They kind of challenge you. They make it difficult because they are one of those teams that are, they will present non-normal matches. So normally you get 211 personnel, you get nickel or maybe Bronco personnel. So you're keeping still 5 DBs on the grass. They'll play in base, which makes it harder to defend to run the ball against. So trying to find a balance of how you call the game while still being able to not let the defense dictate what you do. Really for 2 weeks in a row versus two different opponents with different styles. But it's about being able to pick and choose our spots. But these guys are tough. But I'm excited about the opportunity. Our guys are ready for the opportunity as well, and so we'll keep battling and go swing our sword on game day.
Thomas Keenan's numbers from the slot this past week were his best of the season. I know injury might have precluded some of those numbers kind of going down this year, but like, what do you like about the production you're getting from him there? I guess 2 parts, and then you're utilizing him other places. I know obviously you didn't have him all these other years, but
Yeah.
what about the matchups do you think he's manipulating the best at this point in his career?
So it's funny. Before I was presented with the opportunity to be the coordinator, during the week I would play scout team nickel, which plays in the slot. And I think I'm a pretty athletic dude. I'm still kind of cocky in some ways. And obviously, I can't guard him, even though I've told him that to his face I can. But I think watching the guy, the one-on-one matchups, how he moves, the nuance of route running is obviously elite. It's been elite for a long time. But also being able to understand how we can move guys around, right? Use formation variations, using motions to do a couple things, right? To marry things for us offensively, to give us access and also to give us coverage indicators. So using the illusion of complexity, formation variation, motion shifts to force communication from a defensive standpoint, but also hiding where certain guys are. But he's a big time player, been that way for a long time.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you.
Okay, excited to be a part of a game and an NFL event with so much historical relevance and tradition, and to get a chance to compete on this particular stage. The guys will be ready to have our best performance, and so we're looking forward to that on defense. And what can I say about this offense? Very prolific. The quarterback, veteran player, has seen everything that you can possibly throw at him. This offense is fueled by a very strong and productive rushing attack. Two great players who are heading that charge. The offensive line is a veteran group, and they're really adept at blocking the run concepts that they will feature. The receiving core, extremely dynamic, great speed. They have individuals that can stretch the field. Really good. They also have players who will do a good job as possession players underneath to provide reliable targets for the quarterback. And the backs are also targeted in the passing game. So we're going to do a really good job of making sure that we defend the run, attack the line of scrimmage, create negative plays, and put this team in 3rd and 7+ situations. That's our formula. We're going to continue to work and tweak this formula until we get it the way that we know we're capable of. With that, I'll take your questions.
What do your guys need to be cognizant of when it comes to Jamison Williams and just all the yards after the catch and how to defend that?
Well, the entire offense is really defined by that. And we actually talked about that today. The yards after contact, we have to make sure, first of all, that we have great population at the point of attack, wherever that happens to be, down the field with our safeties, corners, on the perimeter with screens. And so we have to just do a great job of making sure we get people there and that we do an exceptional job of establishing our cup for leverage and tackling the ball carrier.
What stands out to you about the way they use Gibbs?
Wow. The way that they can move him around, the way that they can isolate him versus certain aspects of your coverage, and just they find ways to scheme to get him the football. And so we have to just be ready for him as well as the other skill players.
What have you seen from Jared Goff this year that has allowed him to be so good, especially when it comes to completion percentage?
Well, he's getting the ball out of his hand, and the passing game is really controlled. They push it down the field some, but they do a great job of getting the football out of his hand so that he doesn't have to hold it for an extended period of time. Like all veteran quarterbacks, he has a really good idea of what you're doing. He's a smart player. He's seen a lot of defense, a lot of coverage concepts. He understands the leverage of the defenders. That gives him some information. So he's able to manage the game and to work this offense to perfection. And also, he's very selfless. I mean, for a guy that's had a lot of success as a gunslinger, he doesn't mind utilizing the rushing attack to help him.
Eric, you outlined all the talented pieces they have on offense. What is the effect or the challenge you see in facing Ben Johnson as a play caller?
There'll be some wrinkles that'll be thrown at us, and we know that. There'll be some things that he will feature specifically against our defensive construct, and we have to be ready. We have to utilize our rules and just be ready to go. But we know that there'll be some wrinkles that he'll throw at us. There'll be some things that are trademarks and hallmarks of what they like to do. But with this particular coordinator, we have to be ready for some things that could be described as outliers.
We've seen Terrell Smith play some more as the year's gone on, including towards the end of the game last week. What's gone into him getting that increased snap count and playing in those high leverage moments towards the end of the game?
Well, the production and just what we know from him as far as what he can do with his skill set. I mentioned last week, love his man coverage ability, love his ability to diagnose and to really feel route concepts, pattern pressure. And you saw last week in the red zone, he came up with a couple of weeks ago, he came up with a pick for us. And so the production is there. We trust him. He's reliable, and he can really fit exactly what we need that position to do.
Eric, what was your evaluation of the pass rush against Minnesota? You got a couple more sacks in that game.
It was more impactful for sure. And that was really a point of emphasis. We talked about just kind of reestablishing our defensive identity as far as rushing coverage, working together, and that being the way that we generate pressure, not necessarily with our blitzes, but I thought Montez. I really felt Montez in the ball game. Really felt him, and that was great to see. He played extremely hard. Came within inches in the overtime period of getting the ball away from the quarterback, and we collapsed the pocket. Did a better job with that. Didn't provide the quarterback a lot of extra time to make off schedule throws or to escape the pocket. And I think there's more out there for us with that group.
You
With the
mentioned
issue-
last week when it came to Montez, just resetting some of the fundamentals, maybe reestablishing that. Did you see that show up in his get off this past week?
Oh, without question. Not only with his get off, but with the rush angles. Those things being tighter, which puts the edge of the protection under duress right now and gives him a chance to counter and to do some of the things as far as helping the inside rushers. He took ownership of that, took it to heart, especially when we evaluated him and the entire group. And he knows that we need him to do special things, and he really stepped up.
With the issues you've been having against the run, especially against an offense like this, how do you stop the run without paying a price against the pass?
Well, you can. We've demonstrated that you can accomplish one without compromising the other one, and it comes down to core fundamentals. It comes down to a certain mentality, and just really being disruptive, starting on the line of scrimmage with our defensive line, and being precise from call to whistle with everything that we're supposed to be doing as it pertains to our look when we're rotated down, how we are aligned, how those things change with motion. We have to be precise, we have to be physical, and the effort has to be there, and it will be.
Jalen Johnson was mentioning some of the missteps defensively have been about execution. Have you noticed some sort of disconnect between the preparation and what's happening on game day?
Not with the preparation. The players are wired in, they're locked in. Our process has been consistent from the time we started working in the offseason all the way up and through last week. Are there areas that you want to identify and make sure that there are no holes in there? Absolutely. We'll evaluate that every week. But the way our coaches are informing the guys and the way the guys are responsive to not only the coaches but our entire process, I'm confident in that. And sometimes you're extremely close and it looks like you're far away, but I believe we're right there. We just need to make sure that we don't have any self-inflicted situations.
What has to go well for you guys on the defensive line against a really veteran offensive line on that other side?
It has to start with our speed. It has to start with our get off. This is a group that works extremely well together, not only in the run game, but in protecting the quarterback. And so we have to create momentum against this group as run defenders and as pass rushers. We have to create it. We have to make sure we're coming off the football. We have to recognize things pre-snap that may give us some information regarding what we're likely to see. We have to be really connected to the situation. So they've seen a lot. We've got a group that's played a lot of football together, so we have to make sure that how we work together really gives us a chance to work against this group and to be successful.
You guys have been pretty good about limiting explosive plays, but past 2 weeks, lots of explosives, Christian Watson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. What's been the difference there that all of a sudden you guys, past couple weeks, have been giving up those explosives?
We'll continue to work at it, you know what I'm saying? And anybody that's put forth your best effort and done everything that you believe needs to be done to accomplish and to achieve a goal and you've fallen short can identify a little bit with the situation that we've been in. The situations that we've been in have not been due to lack of attention to detail, focus, effort. All of those things are still present. We've got to make sure some of the detail things are there and that we don't overcompensate for trying to make plays and all of a sudden now we put ourselves off balance. Sometimes that happens. Guys are so overzealous at trying to be the person that makes the play through no fault of their own. They end up unintentionally compromising the overall structure, and there's a trickle-down effect. I mean, we need 11 guys doing what they're supposed to be doing, and when we get that done, and we've had that, we won't have any issues with explosive plays.
Does it bother you the details are an issue in week 12?
This is my 17th year in the NFL, and and I mentioned last week, sometimes you have to reset things under the best of circumstances. You have to go back and kind of reteach things under the best circumstances. So this is not unusual as far as what what my experiences have been. And like I mentioned, it's not due to lack of professionalism. It's not due to lack of attention to detail. As I mentioned, sometimes when guys are so, I don't want to say overzealous because we want everybody wanting to be at the point of attack and finish a ball play, but you have to make sure you do that in a way that doesn't compromise your overall structure.
4th and 4 in the third quarter, there's a lot of confusion. A lot of people have talked about it. What happened with Cairo and Daly coming on the field and the offense going for it?
Yeah, I think Coach addressed that, and talked about communication and uh, him being better in that moment, which I thought was awesome by him because that's exactly what happened. And um, and he has the right to do and say whatever he wants when it comes to fourth down or anything like that. So we got the guys off, and then they rock and roll and went with the offensive play. So
Were you in the loop? Did you know what was happening on that play as your guys are running out there? Did you know they were going for it?
well, what happened was, and I think he said this already, Jay. He said this already that he was on the other line maybe, and he just didn't get it communicated back to us. So that's what happened. I don't unless it's 2 minute or something like that. I don't. Thomas is trying to call plays. I don't talk on the offensive channel. I don't do all of that stuff. I don't let those guys do their deal because we're making adjustments, corrections, and everything on our special teams channel and game management. And got to do a lot of clicking too. So I got to talk to a lot of different people too.
Richard, on the block and the field goal after,
Mhm.
protection unit, you had Darnell go from, I think it was on the right side to then the left side for this. What was the adjustment there? What did you see? Or was that based on something that you saw from why the field goal was blocked that you want to make that adjustment, move him over to the left side?
Yeah, it's good, Courtney. You're on top of it. That's outstanding. Some people don't see that. Yeah, we made an adjustment during the game. Obviously, we got to be better there with the first one. The first field goal, the extra point was good, obviously, to start the game. But the field goal, we got to be better there. We spent a lot of time and attention last week on that. We really did. But at the end of the day, we didn't get it done. And you got to credit Minnesota on that play. But as you're referring to, we went on the sideline, we made adjustments, we made further adjustments than the adjustments that we already had made going into the game. So that's why you saw Darnell there. And credit to our guys. They made adjustments. They were able to take the adjustments. We made all our kicks from there, including a huge kick to send us into overtime at the end of the game with 3 seconds left. So I was really proud of the guys' resolve and resilience, especially in that moment. All right, because that was another 48-yarder for those guys, and they got it done. And it's a credit to them. And that it doesn't surprise me because I know what type of resilience and what type of resolve and what type of men that we have in our locker room. I was just happy to see it on display. And Darnell didn't blink. Darnell said, hey, whatever you need. And yesterday he was, hey, whatever else I can do. Let me know. Anything you want me to do, I'll do it, coach. So that guy's attitude is phenomenal.
Braxton, sorry, just a quick follow-up on that. Braxton said after the game, he put a lot of it on himself. He said, I'm playing too high on the block. Was that what you saw went wrong there?
Yeah, I tell you what about that. Like I always tell you guys about field goal, it's operation, it's protection, and it's execution. And we didn't have that on that play. And that's always going to start with me. And I understand Braxton taking the responsibility on that play. Cairo also took full responsibility on that play. Um, and he's working on things. Braxton's working on things. The whole unit is working on things. And we're looking forward to, turning the page and getting that done. What I was happy about as a coach is that those guys showed the resilient mindset that I asked them to show last week. And they kept fighting. And they gave the team a chance, not only with that play at the end of the game, several big plays on special teams in the fourth quarter to get us going. And we're going to build off of that.
You mentioned Cairo is working on things. What does he need to change, if anything, to kind of avoid these?
Yeah, it's just anytime the ball doesn't go through the uprights, we're always going to make adjustments. Not only for Cairo, but for snapper, holder, kicker, and protection, wherever the issue was. So we're always going to make adjustments if that ball doesn't go through the upright, because it's our job to put it through the upright. And starting with me, it's our job to get that done.
Cairo was telling us after the game that he has this kind of this driving kick to deal with the wind, but that he was gonna try and get that ball a little bit more elevated to help the guys out. Now, last year, he kind of went through the visual tick with the extra points, and he was able to work through that. Are there lessons that you guys can apply from working through that visual tick on the extra points last year to kind of work on the tweaks he's gonna make with this?
Yeah, sure. Certainly are. And that's the one thing about it's great working with Cairo and his mindset and mentality. And we put some things in last year where we got that corrected. That's no different than this year. And that kid has went on to make 16 plus or whatever 50-yard field goals, done a phenomenal job. He's been as reliable as they come. And sometimes these things happen in bunches because this is the NFL. It happens. You got to tip your cap to Minnesota. But Cairo, I wouldn't have want anybody else kicking for us but that young man. He is a warrior. He's a fighter, as is all our guys. I think you saw that on Sunday.
The extra point that you guys pulled, I mean, the onside kick that you guys,
Hmm.
is that what you were hoping would happen? I know the result was what you hoped would happen, but for it to get that deflection, was that the strategy going in?
I can't speak to strategy, Jay, but it happened exactly how we wanted it to happen. And we've been working on that kick for 2.5 years, for 2 days a week, for 2.5 years. And that one time we got a chance to do it, I was proud of those guys in that moment because they executed it. And they never complained about doing it twice a week for 2.5 years. And it takes that time and commitment and effort in order to have one successful play. So that's what I was so happy for those guys. Do we have to clean some things up? Yeah. But I'm excited about what they did in the fourth quarter. They stood up, they stood tall and gave us a chance to be in that ball game.
I have two questions for you about Carter, because it was obviously an interesting day for him. On
Hmm.
on the turnover, is there anything he can do there, or are you looking at that as, hey, that's an unpredictable bounce?
Yeah, it was an unlucky bounce. What happened with DeAndre, and I love DeAndre Carter to death. I had him at a at another stop when obviously it was on the West Coast. I love DeAndre because his mindset, his mentality, the way he works, his resilience, his determination. People don't build him like DeAndre. That kid was a substitute teacher, and still people don't know that, coming to work out in full pads twice a day. I used to see him outside my window and then go teach and then come back. That's how bad he wants it. So on that play, he's a veteran returner. He knows that he has to communicate there, and he tried to communicate. What happened on that play is the corner fell down. So as he's communicating to him and going to get the ball, the corner fell down. It took an unlucky bounce. So he was trying to protect his teammate, and it hit him. But I tell you what, again, we talked about resolve, resilience, mindset. How about that kid bouncing back on that kickoff return? And look what happened. Look what happened with no time left, no timeouts left, 1:50, and put it at the plus 40 for Caleb to give us a shot, right? A lot of people counted us out with 1:55 left, but not those guys in the locker room. They believed, and I'm proud of the way they believe, and I believe in them the same way. So I can't wait to see them play this week on the national stage.